So anyone who watched all of Rick and Morty season 1 and 2 should know who Jerry is, the equivalent of a new stepfather in an average family, but also a lovable goof. For some people, that is. Now I did run a poll up on my communities tab talking about which video to make, and it came down to two. This and a character study on Evil Morty. Some people gave good opinions about this Jerry topic, so I thought I would do this one first. Anyways, Jerry from season 1 and season 2 showed lack of interest towards Rick, especially when it came to bringing in Morty on his adventures. Season 3 Jerry, well, we learn a lot more about him and his true feelings about this whole situation involving Rick and Jerry's family. In this video, we will be going through the reasons on why Jerry is a needed antagonist. So before anything, who is Jerry? Well, to shorten things down, he's the ex-husband of Beth and the father of Morty and Summer. I would say that for a good amount of time, his main rival was Rick, and it was the battle on who runs the family, especially in season 1 and 2. Season 3 introduced us to some backstory onto Jerry, and we got to see what some reasons were. We knew that Jerry's nature of pitifulness was what made Beth stay with him and work on the family. Obviously, that did not help that much, as their marriage did turn out to be a bit of a mess, and it was the only time in season 3 that the separation began between Beth and Jerry. Now that we got a short summary of Jerry out of the way, we talk about the second part of the video, the antagonist. So with many stories, you often have your main character you follow and someone you technically are behind most of the time. This is called your protagonist. Somewhere along the line, your protagonist faces someone else and opposes them, their views and or anything that they have to do with the protagonist. This is called the antagonist, and it is what I will be incorporating when talking about Jerry. Jerry obviously isn't a huge threat or rival to Rick anymore, as we saw in the Whirly Dirly conspiracy that Rick and Jerry have made better amends. At the end of the episode, they both leave off with proper farewells and lowers the tension. Although Jerry is still upset he was not able to see his family still, because we all know he loves them but is just afraid to go through the process. So why Jerry then? Well, first off, he was the main punching bag of the show, especially in season 1 and 2. He opposed Rick's views, the adventures with Rick and Morty, dealt with the daddy issues of Beth, and was hated because he had no job. He really did try to be a good father, but he ended up becoming the punching bag. I think this title of being the punching bag of the show was important as well, because it created some sort of relief and show an opposition to Rick. This somehow creates a better story within the episode's plot, such as season 2 episode 3 where Jerry and Beth find Rick's hidden lab, or in season 1 episode 9 when Morty and Jerry have their own adventure. Let's take it at this. Jerry was against Rick bringing Morty to his adventures, and it created some sort of dynamic between Rick and Jerry. Jerry, the opposing force, created a sense of root power for Rick, as in you were always rooting for Rick when he faced Jerry. Now in season 3 it's a bit different. The adventures keep on going with no stop, and it changes some characters. Let's take in Morty for example. After being free from Jerry's constraints, the adventures have kept on going. Now it's taken a toll on Morty as well. Granted though, through episode 7 of season 3 he'd go back to get that mermaid puss with Rick. Now still regarding the adventures, now that Rick is free to do all these adventures, it becomes kind of boring with no opposition. I'm not saying that Rick and Morty is boring without Jerry, I'm saying that having freely adventures all the time makes it kind of repetitive. In the previous seasons, Jerry intervened in after a few episodes. The only opposition we had in season 3 that Rick was facing partially came from Beth and her daddy issues, as well as Morty. And I can understand Beth's issues, but having oppositions with Morty constantly makes it lose the value that Rick and Morty is supposed to be an adventure between grandson and grandfather. Again, I'm not saying that this is necessarily bad, because adding this new trait with Morty shows development as well, so there's that. There's no saying that if Jerry returns, it can recreate this spark we had in season 1 and 2, because we all know season 3 episode 5 ended up with some sort of settlement, but having Jerry as an outside voice of opposition could create a new sort of spark between himself and Rick. Jerry is basically a society sheep, someone who follows the herd, and this is basically go to school, get good grades, get a good job, start a family, then work till you die. Season 1 episode 1 had Jerry strongly disagree with Rick because he wanted Morty in school. Some people will say that Jerry from Cronenberg world is different. True, but then again Rick said it was the same reality, except they just died in that timeline. Continuing on, he also got his job with the Galactic Federation and pretty much enjoyed what they were doing. When you have this and you clash it with Rick's beliefs and views, it creates a compelling story between an antagonist who follows the rules and a protagonist who lives by his own rules. I mean, take a look at the ending of Wedding Squanchers, where Jerry explained his disinterest for Rick. A lot of people, including myself, started saying fuck Jerry, and it felt great, but now that he's gone, we don't have that person to have fun hating on. Sure, some people hates Jerry, but I've seen a lot of change of hearts for him, and so I thought I would also add more aside from the antagonist part. And it's basically his storylines were quite amazing as well, especially with the plot B points in episodes like Me Seeks and Destroy and M. Night Shyamalan's, and his story with Doofus Rick as well. It was his struggle in society that made episodes funny and contradict the plot A storylines with Rick and Morty. He also shows a lot of contrast towards Rick as well, which I feel is very important. Like at the end of season 2 episode 3, after Rick failed to attempt suicide, Jerry is still happy finding his weed whacker, which shows how different these two really are. One is dealing with harsh complications outside of the world, and one is just happy to remove some weeds. He's also a funny guy to begin with, and even though he was just a really bad dad, he played the bad dad so well. There were some points where you always sided with Jerry as well. Maybe, I don't know, that's speaking for me though. But Jerry is an incredible character that I feel is part of the core of the show. I love seeing Rick and Morty's adventures, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I just want to hit back to earth and see what regular humans do and how they deal with someone more complicated than themselves. I can't speak for you and your beliefs because we all have different opinions on each character. This is coming from someone who likes Jerry more than Beth and Summer and enjoyed the whirly-dirly conspiracy more than Pickle Rick, so yeah. That is why I made this video, to give my thoughts on the lack of Jerry in season 3 and why he could have possibly made it more interesting than it is. I'm not saying he's needed in every episode, just in some cases or in important storylines that makes him a good opposition to having fun going against him. But now the comments are your platform to give your opinion on this matter. You can disagree or agree on my reasons, and I'm all down to connect with all of you. Well, of course, those who are willing to have a good conversation. But other than that, this concludes the video. If you want to talk to me personally or support the channel, links are always in the description and in the info cards down below. The BTS of this video will be in the link down below as well. This has been a Jerry video. Check out some more videos. My name is Jay, and I will see you guys in another day. Peace.